Well, if all goes well, we'll hopefully bring them down here in person for an entire weekend next December.
Oh,
Here's
that would be
my own
terrific. That would be
joint
terrific.
I'd love that.
I don't know if the rest of you.
Hi, everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We have about 40 minutes left of lights here. So
I hope you got a good night's rest.
I went right to sleep and I came
middle of
home
the
about
night for you.
12:30 here after we had a bat mitzvah here.
Ah,
Yeah, I had lunch. I took a rest. I read a few pages. And I'm back.
Okay.
No problem. No problem.
David, שחר,
Welcome.
שכנראה שהוא לא אוהב את פלורידה.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
For some of you, I'm meeting for the first time. So how are we doing time-wise? Well, we're still 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Huh? So we're all set. Look good, and you can hear me?
Very well.
Great.
Did you get a good night's sleep, Rabbi?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Yes, I went right to bed. 1 in the morning here.
Yeah.
I got up before my alarm got me up. I was up at about 7:45.
Nice.
So I'm fine. I'm fine.
Good, good.
Where
Yeah.
in London are you exactly?
What? I didn't hear?
Where exactly in London are you?
You know London pretty well. It's Belsize.
I went to school in Wembley Park.
Belsize Park. It's between Hampstead and Primrose Hill. Do you know where it is?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. It's really nice here.
It's very nice.
Very nice. Yeah. Of all the places in London, this is the only
Aren't you
place
seeing
I
what?
would live.
Me and screen it.
I don't know.
Really,
This seems to be reversed. And the more, look at that.
Safe. It's nice. It's Jewish.
Love, yes, yes, yes.
Nice.
We
My
got-
mom's from Beth
Rabbi,
Mill.
are Jews leaving England by the droves?
What? People leaving?
Yeah, to go to Israel or other places?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a certain amount of aliyah that's taking place. I think the best way to gauge that is going to be after this pandemic is over. And of course, this community was hit real hard by the anti-Semitism
Right.
from Jeremy Corbyn. And there was a tick up in aliyah. The fact that he was defeated so soundly put a little clamp on that.
Yeah.
But we'll see. The economy is gonna
Just
be-
woke up, he's in London.
So many of them have a property in Israel already, though, that they use for the
Oh, yeah,
holiday.
a lot of our families have properties. They go to Israel all the time. They have second homes there. A lot of our people. You know, that's probably the one thing I will miss. We can fly to Israel. It's only a 2-hour time difference. Fly there in 4.5 hours, and you don't have to. When you come from the States, it's a whole big to do.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's like going from New York to Florida to a condo. That's the way they look at it.
By the way, yeah, right. So that's what I would recommend that you do, if I can give a recommendation. When you go to Israel, it's not a bad idea to fly to London.
No.
Catch your breath, and then yeah, very inexpensive to Tel Aviv. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the whole trip in one 10-hour. How long? What is the flight from?
12 hours.
You have to fly from Miami.
From Miami, it's 12, but from New York, it's about 10 and a
12
half.
hours. So, right?
Because it was a peak review. So
A long trip.
Mark, we'll take you to Mark Bokoff is here. I saw you briefly.
Yes, he
Shabbat
was.
Shabbat shalom. How we doing?
Ross,
We'll start in 2 minutes. Never.
We have a nice crowd this morning.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat
shalom,
everybody.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi. Welcome.
Shabbat shalom.
Welcome.
Shabbat shalom.
Hello.
hi, Joe.
Ben, are you the Zoom guru today?
Yes, I am.
About 2 minutes, we'll,
place to go.
in about 2 minutes, we'll mute everybody.
It's been, that's all right. I don't know if it's a bad.
Are we waiting? Should we wait a little bit? I don't know.
Do the shooting when you're ready.
We should begin on time. Is that the consensus?
We
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Always a good, yeah.
I like to begin on time.
We do.
Like wait.
Let's go ahead and mute everybody, please.
I had to mute everybody.
Noises.
No Sunday.
Michael, are you ready for me to mute?
I only wear my belly till they talk.
Mike, are you ready for me to mute?
Yeah,
Elliot, mute him. Yes, please mute everybody. Unmute yourself.
I think I need to be unmuted. There we go.
Before we get started, for those who were not here last night, I'm Michael Krasno. I'm the chair of the Rabbi Selection Committee. If you're not participating in services today, please stay muted throughout the services. On behalf of the search committee, I again want to welcome Rabbi Altshuler to Temple Beth Shalom via Zoom. And we appreciate it. Rabbi's had a long day, 2 days already. Last night we had services. He left a little after 12:30 last night. And then you had a bar or bat mitzvah this morning.
Big one, considering our limited, big family. There must have been 8 uncles and aunts, and I kept track of all the names.
You're in the middle of the afternoon and going to do your second Shabbat service today. And I just want to let everybody know that I have received several questions, and following services, I will have several questions to ask of the rabbi. Thank you for joining us again, Rabbi. And I will mute myself, and it's all yours.
Okay, let's begin. I have the honor of leading the preliminary service, the Birkat HaShachar. We're beginning on page 103 with the brachot. If you'd like to, you can stand where you're at. They're normally done in the standing position. Of course, it's a new day and never to be taken for granted. Life. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lasach livina lahafchim bein yom uvein laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani ben chorim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shesani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbi sharumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokar salamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechim mitzadik aver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam anoten liya'ef koach. V'yiratzon mefenechna v'lovotenu v'imotenu v'zayom yotcheshoed v'rav achanenu v'chaverat. Utenenu hayom chayom l'cheinu chesed rachamim beinecha v'nekroenu v'tikmelenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. Page 122. 122, Baruch Shamar. Baruch Shamar v'haya ha'olam. Baruch hu. Baruch Osev Reshit. Baruch Omer v'osem. Baruch Ozerim Kayim. Baruch Merachem al haaretz. Baruch Merachem al briot. Baruch Mishalim Sechatov L'Rehav. Baruch Chai La'ad V'Kayam L'Netzach. Baruch Puteh Matzil. Baruch Hu. Baruch Shemo Baruch Atah Adonai. B'shon chazitav avadav. V'nazkir shimcha v'lamnicha makenu Eloheinu. Yachid Chei ha'olami melech meshubach. U'mefa'ad yad shemo hagdol Baruch Atah Adonai. Melech mehulal batishbachot. Page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Odi Hallelu Chasela, Ashrei Amshkach Halo, Ashrei Shamdan Lahav, Tilad David, Aromim Chalai Amelech, Vechashim Elam Vehed, Vichol Yom Avarchek, Avalashim Chalilam Vehed, Gadol Laim Elamod, V'leidilatoin Cheker, Dor Shbach Masech, V'rotach Yagidu, Hadar Kvodedecha, V'ifreini Fotecha Sicha, Vezusorotach Yomer, V'chatzapren, Hazecharat Chayabiu, Tziat Chadyuranenu, Chanu V'rachum Adonai, Rechapayim V'chasid, Tov them the Kol V'rachmav Kol Masaf, Yotu Chanei Kol Masech V'itachi V'chucha, Malchutcha Malchut Chalamim, Einei Kol Elech Yisabei V'retonotin Lahem Et Ochlam Bito, Tzadik Kanei B'chol Dorach V'tzit Kol Masaf, Karov V'tkol Karav, Shomer Adad Kol Avid V'shemishim, Tilat Adonai Yedabepi, Vivorei Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Lilam V'ed, V'anachnu V'rechya, Me'ata V'yad Olam, Hallelujah. Page 141, 150th Psalm. We're celebrating life, our Shabbat together. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 El Bikocho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Bikia Uzo, hallelujah, 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 Big Vurotav. Hallelujah, hallelujah, Kerov Gudlo. Hallelujah, 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 B'tei Kashofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, B'nei V'chinor. Hallelujah, 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 B'tof Umacho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, B'minim Ve'ugal. Hallelujah, 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 V'tziltzalei Shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, B'tziltzalei Truah. Kol Hanshama Telaya, hallelujah, Kol Hanshama Tehallel. Hallelujah. Page 145. Nishmat kol chai tevarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu v'ruach basar tefaer teramim zichro makinu tamid min haolam v'olam ata'el midatech ein lanu melech ol Mashiach hodem atzim lefanes v'lechem b'votzara v'tzukah ein lanu melech ela'ata. Menahel v'srat v'rachamim man v'nishalim v'nisnidamin v'snidanim asir asurim v'snifnifim v'snifnifim ilu filu malei shura kayam siftotenu shevach v'einenu b'rinot k'shemesh kareya v'yedet brusu k'nishrei shamayim einav oskim lo telechal adanu v'levatenu v'motenu Otenu zvamitanu v'santanu Umideve meltatan Mechalim arim namning levitanu Osum l'kasadech v'chinot adana netzav V'ruah neshama V'yaritzu v'yakdif yamir shim kalamakenu Ki chol peh lecha yodeh V'chol lashon lecha tishava לכל קרב קניתם לישראל לשמע כדבר שכתוב את עצמו תמד אדם מכמוך מתמלך משפלך מארוך לך האל הגדול גיבור ונורא אל עליון קונה שמיים וארץ להללך נשבחך ונפארך ונברך את שם קודשך כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרבי את שם קודשו האל בתת-אמות עוזך, הגדול בכבוד שמך, הגיבור לנצח והנורא בנורותיך, המלך, היושב על כיסא רם ונישא. Cantor.
שוכן אדמו"ר לקדוש שמו.
ובקרב קדושים תתקדש.
לפי ישרים תתפלל ובדברי צדיקים תספרך ובלשון חסידים תשרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש. ובמקלס רבבס עמך בית ישראל.
כן חובת כיסורים בפניך ובתתנו ונותינו להודות להלל.
להודות להלל, לשבח לפאר, לרומם להדר לברך לעלי ולקלס, על כל דברי שירס, שירס וששבחוס, דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו.
המלך הגדול בשמיים ובארץ, שיר ישפל הלב וזמרה סמם שלו נעשת ופרטינה ותפארת ישב ברכו ואדמת אברהם
ברכות והודות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול ותשבחוס אל ההודות אדון הנפלאות הבוקר בשירי זמרה מלך אל חי עולמים. יסגדל ויסקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
בעלמא דברך ירסה וימליך מלכוסה. בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן.
ישמע
רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עולמיה. יסברך וישתבח ויספאר וישרומם ויסנשא ויסהדר ויסעלה ויסהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכסה ושירסה תושבחסה ונחמסה לאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. ברכו es Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvarei choshech oseh shalom uvarei es hakol.
הכל יודוך והכל ישבחוך, שנתקדש וחסר יסר הכל, ובוקר לך לרקיע, מוסיך עמם ממקומו, ובטובו מחדש על מסר ראשית. Eén keer kwaad wensen de tegen, we zullen het in lach, één keer gaat het lang moeten.
Ein ke'erkochadon Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, ve'ein zulas chamokeinu l'chayei ha'olam haba. Efes biltecha go aleinu limos haMoshiach, ve'ein dome lecha Moshienu, l'zchias hamesim.
Page 151, Eladon.
El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim, Baruch Barach b'fi kol neshama, Gadlo v'tuva ma'alei olam, Dasus v'naso v'vimoso, Hamiskaeh, Al chayos hakodesh v'nedor b'chavod, Al hamerkava, Zechus umishar lifnei chiso, Chesed v'rachamim lifnei vodo, Tovim me'oros shebara Eloheinu yitzaram b'da'as b'vina u'v'haskel, Koach u'gvura nasan bahem, Lios moshlim bekerev tevel, Meleim ziv, Umfikim noga noezivam, B'chol olam. Smechim b'tzeisam b'sasim b'voam, Osim be'ema retzon konam, Be'er v'chavod, Nosnim lishma, Zahalavarina l'zecher malchusa, Kara l'shemesh v'yizrachor, Ra v'hiskin to ras halvana, Shevach nosnim lo, Kol tzva maharam, Tiferes ugedula, Seraphim ve'ofanim, V'chayos hakodesh.
Page
V'el asher
152.
shavas mikol hamasim.
Yom HaShvihit alav yashev v'kisei kvodo. Shebo shava ben kol melachto v'yom HaShvi meshabech v'yomer mizvah shel yom HaShabbat. Sheva kol yidgel gavim mekavechol v'nusim nizlev v'yishav v'yishav v'yom Shabbat Kodesh.
Tisbarach Mosheinu shevach ma'aseh yadecha v'am orei or she'asisa yifa'aru chasela. Tisbarach Serena.
Page 153. Yivrei Elohim Chayim HaMelech Olam Kulam Ahuvim.
Kulam ahuvim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, v'kulam osim be'ema uv'yira ha'retzon konam, v'kulam poschim es pihem, b'kedusha uv'tahara b'shira v'zimra, u'mevarachim, u'mishabachim, u'mefarim, u'ma'aritzim, u'makdishim, Umamlichim Hashem.
HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor v'Nora Kadosh Hu.
V'kulam makablim aleihem ol malchus shamayim zeh mizeh v'nosnim rishus zeh lazeh v'hakditz liotram b'nachas ruach v'safa brura u'min ima kadosha kulam ke'echad onim ve'omrim b'yirah.
Kadosh.
Kadosh, Kadosh, Adonai Tzvaos, Malach kol haaretz kavodo.
Leofnim v'chayet HaKodesh.
Ha'afanim v'chayos hakodesh, Barash gadol misnasim l'umas serafim, l'umasam mishabachim ve'omrim. Baruch Adonai mimkomo.
Well, Mechamot Zoretz Kadam Asvir Shishua Borei Refuot Naratilot Adonai Flot המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מספר.
Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir, V'nizkeh kulanu meira le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer ha'ma'orot. Ahava Rabbah ahavtanu.
154, Ahava Rabbah, Ahavtanu. What was that? Just a minute, everybody. Our alarm went off suddenly. I'm sorry about that.
Erev Tanu Lishimcha Hagadol Sela Be'emes, Lahodos Laka U'Yachedcha Be'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai, Habocher B'Amo Yisrael Be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohech.
Rabbi?
B'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha.
V'ahavta es Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavcha, hayom al levavecha.
V'shinantam levanecha. V'ribachtam. V'shivtecha b'veitecha. Uv'lechtecha v'terech. Uv'shopecha v'kumecha. U'kshatam liot al yadecha. V'hayu l'totafo bein einecha. U'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha. Uv'hisharecha. V'haya im shmua tishmua mitzvotai. ולא תכתיב מצרצכם ביצויר על מקוש. וסעתם ועבדתם אלוהים אחרים שתחוויתם לכם. ושם לכם שמתם דבר אלה, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניכם ודימתם אותם. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית. על כנפי ידיהם לדורותם ונתנו על ציצית. הקנה פתיל תכלת והיה לכם לציצית. וראיתם אותו, זכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. לדור ודור קיים שמו.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וכיסו נכון ומחוסו באמונתו לעד קיימת.
ודבריו וחיימים הם נחמדים. אמת ומלכות יעבור, אמת שתודה ולבתנו במותנו ובמותנו.
Hodeinu matzilenu me'olam shemecha, ein Elohim zu lasecha. Ezra Sabosenu.
Au me'olam. אשרי איש ישמע למצוותיך ותורתך דרך ליבו. אמת הצורך אחרון. ממצרים גאתנו אלוהינו מבית אבינו. ידידי, ציורו שירה ותשפחות. משפיעים. אלוהו עליון, ברוך מורח משה ובני ישראל.
Hilos Elayom Baruch Mubarak Moshe ben Israel Locha Anu Shira V'Simcha Rabba Ve'amrehu Chulam Milchamocha V'Elohim Adonai Mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norasi lo so sefele. Shira chadasha shibchu geulim l'shimcha al safas hayam yachad kulam hodu v'him lichu v'yamru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Sur Yisrael kuma v'ezras Yisrael uftechin umecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Galenu Adonai Tzavos Shemo Kadosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ka'al Yisrael.
Yamita, page 159.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avoseinu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah El Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chastei Avos Mevi Goel Livnei B'neihem L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Ufoked Umoshia Umogain Baruch Atah Adonai Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Mesim Ata Rav LaHoshia Mashiv Haruach Umarid Hagashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechaye Mesim Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Rofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem emunaso lishenei afar michamocha ba'al gevuros umido melach melech memis umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atal hachayos mesim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMesim.
In Kedusha, page 161. Nikadesh Hashem Shemot Tishmot B'Shmei Maron. Kagatu v'yad v'yak v'razeh el ze v'yamah.
Nekadesh es Shimcha Ba'olam Kishem shemakdishim oso b'shmei moram Kakasu v'yad nevi'echa V'kara ze el ze v'amar
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavaot, Malok ha'aretz kevodo, az bekol rosh kadosh, mishmin kol midasim l'masorafim, li'omatam baruch yomer.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavaos, Malach haaretz kevodo. Oz b'kol ra'ash gadol, adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol, misnasim le'umas serafim, le'umasam, Baruch Yomeru.
Baruch kavod Adonai, mim kol boho, mim kol hamachim. V'karov yanel tishkon v'yitkadav v'titashvil.
Baruch kavod Adonai mim komo kenu Sophia v'simloch aleinu ki mechakim anachnu lach Masai timloch b'tzion b'karov v'yameinu li'olam va'ed tishkon. Tiskadal v'tiskadash b'soch Yerushalayim ircha l'dor v'dor u'lenetzach netzachim. V'yeneinu sirena malchusecha kadavar ha'amur b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Mashiach tzidkecha.
Yimloch Nanadilam Elohai Sion, Dor Vador, hallelujah.
Yimloch Adonai Elam Elohai Sion, L'dor vador, hallelujah. L'dor vador nagid gadlecha, U'lenetzach netzachim kedushascha nakdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush la'olam va'ed, Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata, Baruch ata Adonai. El HaKadosh.
And you silently with the remainder of the Amidah through page 166, from 162, 166. Kaddish Shalem, page 167.
Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei rabba. Yoma divraku sev yamlich makuse. B'chayechon of yomechon of chayedecho beis Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman karib. V'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach. El maya. Yisbarach. Yisbarach, Yishtabach, Yisbar, Yisramam, Yisnasev, Yishadar, Yishalev, Yishala, Shemei Dekudsha, Recho, Le'ela, Minkol, Birchasa, Vishirasa, Tushvachasa, Venechamasa, Da'amiram, Be'alma, Ve'imru, Amen. Tizkabel, Tzos, Honubo, Sahon, Decho, Yisrael, Kodama, Vahon, Devishmaya, Ve'imru, Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimramav yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen.
Shakach. Well done. I think we can move right ahead to the Torah service, which begins on page 168. Ein kamocha.
En kamocha v'Elohim Adonai v'en kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimlach, Le'olam Evad. Adonai Oz Li'amo Yiten, Adonai Yevarech et Amo V'Shalom. Avarachamim tetiva v'rtzonecha et Tzion. Ivnei chamat Yerushalayim. Tivnei chamat Yerushalayim. Ki lechol levad batachnu, Melech Elam v'Nisa, Adon olamim. Vayihi b'nsa Aaron, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, v'yafutu oyevecha, v'yanusu mesanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, Udvar Adonai Birushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Li'amo Yisrael B'Kedushato.
Anavda de kucha barichu de sagedna kame makame dikar oraite b'chol idan ve'idan. We are servants of the Holy One whom we revere and whose precious Torah we revere in every time and place. Not on mortals, nor on angels do we rely, but rather on the God of heaven. The God of truth is Torah's truth, whose prophets are truth, and who abounds in deeds of goodness and truth. It is in God that we put our trust, and it is to his holy and precious name that we utter praise. May it be your will that you open our hearts to your Torah, that you fulfill the desires of our hearts and the hearts of all your people, Israel, for goodness, for Chaim, for life, and for shalom, for peace. Amen.
The Sagidna kame di karoraite, the Cholidan v'hidan, la alena shirachitzna, la alebar elahini samichna. Ella Melaha Bishmaya Dehu Elaha Kishot Diorate Kishat, Unviai Kishat, Unaskelem Ebad, Tavevanukshot, Bebeanarachet, Belish Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anaim Haratush Mechan, Beanarachet, Beanarachet, Belish Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Anaim Haratush Mechan, Yehi Kodamach, Tiftach Libi Bioraita, Retashlim Mishalin Delibi, Belivane Cholamach Yisrael, Etam Lechayin Velishlam. Amen. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shema.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai ti, Unromema Shema Yachtav. Lecha Adonai Hagdula v'Hagvura v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hahod Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו והשתחוו לאדון רגליו וקדושו רוממו רוממו Adonai Eloheinu, Beishtachavu, Lehar Kodsha, Kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We are going to hear some of the words of the Torah portion. Let me introduce that. We're reading from the portion Parshat Miketz, which usually falls out on one of the Shabbat Hanukkah, but very unusual that it does not this year. But we certainly have a lot of themes still left over from Hanukkah related to the character of Joseph. And that reading can be found on page 257 in the Eitz Chaim Humash. We'll be reading from the 53rd verse of the 41st chapter. And we're going to be talking about how Joseph is us today. What is that of Joseph that resonates with our own lives? So I'm going to chant these verses, and then we're going to share some words of Torah. Vatichlena Sheva Shnei Asava Asher Haya Be'eretz Mitzrayim Vatechilena Sheva Shnei Arav Lavo Kasher Amar Yosef Vayehira Bechol Haratzot Uvechol Eretz Mitzrayim Haya Lachem Vatirav Kol Eretz Mitzrayim Vayitzak ha'am el paro lalachem vayomer paro lechol Mitzrayim lechu el Yosef asher yamar lachem ta'asu v'hara'av haya al kol pnei haaretz vayiftach Yosef et kol asher bahem vayishbor leMitzrayim V'chazak hara'ah be'eretz Mitzrayim V'aretz ba'u Mitzrayma Lishbor el Yosef Ki chazak hara'ah B'chol ha'aretz. So, we've just read that Joseph became a big macher in Egypt, and that's the subject of my words. I hope you all can hear me. Sorry about the little interruption we had. Someone came in, our alarm was set, so we'd be hermetically sealed and set off the alarm for a bit. But thank God I have my trusted Paul, my custodian here, who was able to rush to the rescue. I'm sorry about that. Okay, some words to share with you. So we feel a great deal of tension, at least in my view, regarding the character of Joseph. Here's someone who entirely embraced Egyptian culture and life, and yet we see him struggling to regroup his past, recover his Jewish identity. Very many parallels with the Hanukkah episode, which is largely not only of the Maccabean revolt was a war against persecutors, Antiochus IV. But it was also an internecine, a civil conflict of Jew against Jew. We know that from the book of Maccabees, from the historical accounts that we have in Josephus as well. And Elias Bickerman, who taught history at the Jewish Theological Seminary, in his book From Ezra to the Maccabees, this is his major contention, that Hanukkah was largely a civil war. It started as a civil war and then branched out because it was a fight over the question of how much we Jews should acculturate, assimilate into our environment. And of course, there was a line drawn by Mattathias and his sons, by Judah and Simon and Jonathan and the other two boys. A line was crossed, too much Hellenization, too much Greek life, that became an outrageous insult to Jewish uniqueness. And so the revolt began. And so we have the character of Joseph, who is called in our tradition, he's the only one who's called Hatzadik, the righteous Joseph. And it's not because he was flawless. We know that he was a very difficult personality in his youth. But it's because our tradition says he retained his moral values and his Jewish identity. And he made teshuvah, he came back. He was clearly an individual who was completely assimilated into his Egyptian surroundings. He arose from prison to the height of power. He was the vizier, the second in power in all of Egypt to Pharaoh. There is no more poignant moment that we just read when Pharaoh tells Joseph he has absolute power over Egypt except for Pharaoh himself. So he spent 7 years gathering the wheat during the years of plenty. And then he was able during the 7 years of famine, then he sold that wheat and Egypt prospered as a result. as a result of his esteem, his position with Pharaoh, the Pharaoh gave gifts to Joseph, and two of them. One, he gave Joseph an Egyptian name, Sophnat Panera, which was read in the earlier part of the portion, which is a great trivia question. What was Joseph's Egyptian name? He was also given an Egyptian wife, Osnat, who was not only Egyptian, she was a daughter of the priest Potipharah. So you can see that Joseph was really on the make in Egyptian society. And I know there was a song which our bat mitzvah didn't know because she's too young today, but Walk Like an Egyptian. I'm sure you remember that one. So, and Joseph also names his two sons, Menashe and Ephraim, and he points out to the fact in the names of his kids, how much he had really abandoned his past. Menashe, because he was able to change from his upbringing, and Ephraim, which means from the fruits. He became very wealthy and very famous in Egypt. So even his kids' names symbolize the fact that he was really more Egyptian than he was Jewish. And then, of course, as he assimilated himself into Egyptian life, then his brothers came. And then you can almost feel Joseph's torment, twisting his anger, reconciliation. And I would even take it one step beyond. He was twisting and agonizing over his new Egyptian identity and the identity he had in his youth. Of course, he was the son of Israel, the son of Jacob. And the irony is, because of Joseph's success in Egypt, he was able to bring his family ultimately, after we're going to read next week about the reconciliation and the hugging and the kissing and all that. And he was able to save his family from famine, and they were able to live there in Egypt for 450 years. Now, the same thing happened with Moses. Moses also was brought up in the Egyptian palace of the Pharaoh, clearly. And he also, by the way, married the daughter of a Gentile priest, of Midianite priest. Yitro was a Midianite, and his wife Tzipporah was Yitro's daughter. So Moses had a very similar type of background from Joseph, and you can tell that Moses knew Egyptian, he knew the culture, he knew the magic, he knew the ways, the culture of Egypt very much so, and he was also tormented by his past, and of course he rebelled against that and broke away. In both the cases of Joseph and Moses, I would contend, the whole point here of the portion is that they retained their identity as, well, they weren't Jews then, Israelites, B'nai Israel. They knew who they were in the end. They came back to who they were, and they retained the sense of divine mission and purpose. We know that. The tension's there, and yet they were able to come to this conclusion about themselves. Now, what does this mean for us and for a synagogue? We're here during the time of the Christmas celebration, which is always a time when we think about how we are different. It's their holiday. We hope that our neighbors enjoy themselves, but it's not ours. But it's certainly part of the culture that we live amongst. And the challenge, I believe, is that we know that every day we live in an America, you do, I'm still American, by the way. We live in an America in which there are many choices and many alternatives, especially more than ever before for our children. And we're free to choose how we're going to live our lives. But we also know, before we're too hard on ourselves and that we're assimilating so much in America, we should also take note that in every generation of the Jewish people, this has been our problem. This has been our dilemma. Just like for Joseph and just like for Moses. We served in the courts of the Gentiles in Spain. Hasta ibn Shaprut was second in control to the king of Spain, and I think it was the 12th century. Samuel Hanagid became the governor of Granada, but lived very much in Spanish culture, Christian and Muslim influences. Philo and Josephus from the Roman times. The rabbis themselves, the great work that was done by Professor Saul Lieberman at the seminary in showing how the rabbis knew Greek language and used Greek terminology and even adopted Greek names. There were rabbis whose names were Antigonus and Hyrcanus. I'm glad we don't name our kids those names any longer, but they were famous rabbis who had those very Greek names. And my mind was also thinking of Jews, even in Eastern Europe, our ancestors who were tax collectors in Poland and very much influenced by the environment. The Hasidic movement, by the way, is very much a replica of 18th century Polish nobility. So even the most Hasidic, the most extreme, cannot help to have this influence in history of the outside world. It's part of what makes us who we are. In thinking of those Jews, and it was a shame, my wife tried to get in here and couldn't because the door was locked. I wanted to introduce her, but she grew up in the former Soviet Union where, and she was part of the underground Yiddish theater in Moscow, very interesting story. But the dilemma for Jews living in that Soviet communist environment in which teaching Judaism and practicing Judaism was a crime, was a prison sentence, sometimes for life. I visited some of those prisoners of Zion. The battle between Jewish identity and the force of this outside world was enormous, much greater than anything we face, certainly in America. Gerson Cohen, Professor Cohen, who was the former chancellor of the Jewish Theological Seminary, who I had the pleasure of studying with. He was the chancellor when I became a rabbi. He was a brilliant, brilliant scholar. And he wrote an essay called The Blessing of Assimilation in Jewish History, in which he probed all these dilemmas of Jewish life. And he proved that there has never been a time in Jewish history when we haven't been pulled by an outside culture, when we've changed our names, abandoned languages, stopped wearing distinctive clothing. He goes through a whole episode of that, wrote texts in Greek, in French, and all kinds of languages. His point is this, that Jews survived because they lived in those other environments. They adapted and they rejected. It was like a filtering system. I've always said that Judaism's like a filtering system. You have outside influences and pressures, and yet we determine what is unique to us and what is very, very special to us. Ghettoization never succeeded in Jewish life. Our greatest creativity has come from living in the outside world. So, for example, when we study Maimonides, we know that he was influenced by Greek philosophy, by Aristotle. Does that detract from Maimonides' great contribution to Judaism? Yehuda Halevi was influenced by, we know now, Sufi mysticism, and on down the line with virtually every great rabbi and scholar influenced by the outside world. In fact, I'm going to share one quote from the Talmud. I'm finishing up here, but I want to come to this one conclusion about what this means to synagogues. The Talmud has a great line about this, the importance of absorbing from the outside world, not rejecting it. The Talmud says, if you have only Torah, you do not even have Torah. And think about that. If your Judaism is only within a box and not living in this outside world, you're really abandoning Torah. That's what the rabbis taught us. They were immersed in the culture and the philosophies around them. And I want to show you how recent this is. When I came home this afternoon, what I like to do on Shabbat is read. And I read many books. One of the books I'm reading is this one. You probably can't see. It's called The Breakdown of Higher Education. And it's written by a terrific professor from the University of California. His name is John Ellis. And he is bemoaning the fact that our universities are changing. that they're becoming very narrow-minded, that it's complicated. You have to read the book. It's a terrific book. I taught in the university, so I was interested in that subject. I saw it myself, in which there's almost censorship taking place in the world of creativity and different ideas. And the point that I just read while I was getting ready to come here was that he said, when you close out ideas, you're not wrestling with ideas from the outside. You end up destroying the ability to really think. Your intellectualism has changed. And I thought that was so appropriate because that's what we need to understand. The beauty of Judaism is we're able to debate and argue and hear all kinds of different views. That's what makes us stronger. We don't abandon views because necessarily we disagree with them. I thought it was a great point that he made. And so what does that mean to us? How are we like Joseph? It means that we can't reject the world that we're living in. America is a great part of who we are. The culture, the music, the values that we have. It's okay to embrace all that, and we then define who we are as Jews. And I think this is the greatest challenge for conservative Judaism, because this has been the bedrock of our very ideology that we have to really bring back. And that is, I always, by the way, speak at length about my rabbinic background. I'm very proud of it because I am able to study Talmud in any yeshiva in the world. But I'm also able to go to a university and discuss philosophy and literature from all kinds of sources. And that combination of the two, I think, clarifies who we are as Jews. And that dynamic is a good one. And that is the dynamic I think that we do learn from Joseph. He was able to become a great leader because of what he had been influenced by in Egypt. This is the great challenge for the Jewish people going forward. How are we going to be able to communicate this to our children so they know they need to study two worlds, the Jewish and the non-Jewish world, in order to be able to relate to the world that they live in? That is the assignment we have. That's what we need to do, and that's what we should do. We learn that from Yosef. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So we'd like to recite now the Misha Berach for those who are ill. I hope I do not forget anyone on our list here for the Cholim. Misha Berach Avadinu Avraham es Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah v'yivarech v'rapeh et kol hacholim Avram ben Rachel Mordechai ben Chana Moshe Aharon ben Gittel, Miriam bat Sylvia, Devorah Charna bat Pesel, Binyamin Gil ben Esther via Hoshua HaKohen, the Viesta family, Ronald Swears, Shmuel ben Berta, Eliezer ben Brandia, Eliyahu Zev ben Nahum, John Puk Aber, Rivka Shifra bat Sarah Rezel, Shmuel Sussman ben Yosef Eliezer, Chaya Mindel bat Rivka, Pauline Schoenberg, Tzvi Menachem, Caroline Jacob, Kate Probst, Mordechai ben Harav Yitzhak v'Yehudit, Mordechai Yitzhak HaKohen, Yosefa bat Moshe HaKohen v'Rezel Leah, Willie Walter, George Servon, Mordechai ben Dov Umina, Bernard Katz, Chaim Yitzchak ben Velvel Leib Halevi, Zelda bat Binyamin, Moshe Yitzchak ben Yehuda, Eileen Blyer, Meir Tevya, Sarah Leah Nahum, Livia bat Miriam, Brena bat Michael, Avigail Tova bat Malka Dina, Yosef Tzvi ben Metatyahu, Moshe, Aviva Simcha bat Zev, Sarah Leah bat Chana, Lori Ellen Silver, Corey Putnam, Craig Pohl, Razel Etta bat Sarah Leone, Chaviva Miriam bat Mordecai Ahava Mechyan, Myra Snowweiss, Fagel Bracha bat Yosef, Nahum Ezer ben Shalom, David Brett, Pam Brett, Rachel bat Beryl V'chaya Elka, Sheila Radman, Brittany Troutwine, Sarah bat Baruch, Ruth, Gidon ben Shlomo, Shulamit bat Aryeh V'chava Rachel, Baruch Shalom ben Avram V'Sara, Chana Rivka bat Itel, Chaim, Shlomo bat Mina, Meir ben Tzvi, Marilyn Gong, Chana, Dina Gittel bat Moshe Umiriam, Ilana Devora bat Harav, Uri Verut, Yachor, Malka. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachamim Alehem, Lachzikan L'Rapatam, Vishlach Lahem, Mehira Rufua Shlema Min HaShamayim, Rifuat HaNefesh, Rufat HaGuf, B'tok Sha'choleim, V'chazek et Yidei HaOskim B'tzorchehem, Shabbat Himezo Karavo Lavo, Hashtav Zman Kariv, and Omar, Amen. May your ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, bring blessing and healing to all of our loved ones, all we remember the Cholim. May the Holy One mercy restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being together with all others who are ill. And may God grant strength to those who tend to them. Though Shabbat is a time to refrain from crying out, we yet hope and pray that healing is at hand as we say, Amen. We're going to go right to the prayer for our country, which can be found on page 177. Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy, accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, for that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land. Adonai, God whose spirit is in all creatures, we pray that your spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths that dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land. May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth. And may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. From Isaiah, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, for all of them, from the least of them, the greatest shall know me, as we say. Tfilat Lishlom Medinat Yisrael, our prayer for the peace of Israel, page 178.
Avinu Shabbat Shemayim, Sor Yisrael V'Goelo.
Bless the state of Israel, that it may be the beginning of our redemption. And shield it with your love, spread over it the shelter of your peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Help them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend our holy land. Deliver them, crown their efforts with triumph. Bless the land with peace and its inhabitants with lasting joy. And let us say, Amen.
Ashrei. Page 181.
Ashrei Ashrei Betecha Od Yihalelu Chatzela.
Ashrei Meshekach Aloho, Ashrei Ha'am Shadadai Elohav.
Tila LeDavid Anu Mimcha Elohai HaMelech, V'avarecha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Echoyam Avachekav, Lashimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Hula Alam Me'od, V'ligdulato En Cheker.
Odedor Shvat Masecha V'rotzach Yagidu.
Hadar Kevododecha V'divrei Niflaotecha Sicha.
Zuzorotzach Yameru Latcha Saprena.
זכרתי לך יפי ובצדקתך ירננו.
ברחמת אדוני ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
ועוד כל מעשיך ועשיתך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו וגבורתך ידברו.
יבדי אדם גבורותיו וכבוד אדר מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל העולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
עמך עד לכל הנפלים זוקף לכל הכפופים.
הנה כל אליך יסברו ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם מאיתם.
יתך משפיע לכל חרצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
רוב דן לכל קורב וכל שקרו ואמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם.
עומד אדוני את כל אהבה ואת כל רשעים ישמיד.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פי ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יח מעתה ועד עולם. הללויה. יהללו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הדר על ארץ ושמיים וירם קרן לימו. הילה לכל חסידיו לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה. הללויה. מזמור לדוד. עבור אדוני בני עדים. עבור אדוני כבוד עוז. עבור אדוני כבוד שמו. ישתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש. כל אדוני על המים אל הכבוד ירים. אדוני על מים רבים. כל אדוני בכוח. כל אדוני בהדר. כל אדוני שומר ארזים. וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון. ויקידם כמו רגל לבנון וסיריון כמו בן המים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש. כל אדוני יכיל מדבר. יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש. כל אדוני יחולל עיינות. ויחשוף יערות ובהיכל כולו כבוד. אדוני למבול ישב. וישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לימו ייתן. אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. ובכל ימיו.
אדוני ברוך ישראל. ובערב יתך השם תדלק ונתתי לכם. דורתי תעזבו.
כי לקחת נתתי לכם תורתי, אל תעזבו את חיימי, למה חזיקים בה ותומכם ביושר דרכיו דרכנם בכל נתיבותיו שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדשה בנו כקדם.
Koach. We'll move right along to the Musaf Shabbat service, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkada v'yitkada Shemei Rabam, Yamal Yivrach Yerutei v'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayedecho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agahala uv'izman kariv, ve'imru, Amen. Yeshmei Rabba Mevorach, Yalam Lame Hamaya, Yitbarach v'yishtaba, Yitpar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitalev v'yitalal, Shemei dekudusha, Rihu leila, min kol bechata v'shirata, Tush bechata v'nechemata, Damiran bi'alma v'imeru. Amen. It's 185. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imioteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaNora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh HaKol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Koel Livnei V'Nehem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshia U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechayim Etim Atarav L'Hoshia, Mashiva Ruach Morid HaGashem, Mechakel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayim Etim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayim Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bagevurot, Umido Melech, Melech Memid, Umechayim, Umatzmiat Yeshua, V'ne'amanata L'Chayot Metim. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayim Hametim. Naharischa v'nakdishcha, Kisot Siach, Sarfei Kodesh Mahakdishim, Shimcha Bakodesh, Kakatu v'yadeviyecha, V'karaze elzeh, V'yamar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzavot, Melech kol haaretz kevodo. Kevodo מלא עולם. משעתיו שואלים זה לזה, אהיה מקום כבודו. לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומו יפן ברחמים, ויחון עם יחד עם שמו. ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים ביעבה שמע אומרים. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, ברחמיו שנית, ליהנה כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, דברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ושיברך אלוהינו, מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד. כי המלך גדול, כי המלך גדול, וקדוש אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue with the remainder of the Amidah silently through page 188 through page 192. Page 203, Kaddish Shalem. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabam, Bialma divrach chirute vimlech malchute b'chayechona v'mechona v'chayidecho b'Yisrael. Pagla v'zman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach. V'alam lo me'omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitvromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitlal shmegu shabrichu le'ela min kol bechata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechmata damiram b'yamav imru Amen titkapel slahon v'achon t'chol Yisrael kadam avon ishmaya v'imru Amen Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakoyse v'imru Amen Ose shalom v'imromav Hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imru.
Amen.
Amen.
Rabbi, unmute.
Okay, what happened there? Okay. Did you hear the Kaddish Shalem? Good. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemokeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Mikemokeinu, Mikemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonenu, Nodel Mokeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Makeinu, Baruch Moshienu, En Keloheinu, En Kadonenu, En Kemokeinu, En Kemoshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Makeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shehitiru, Avotenu lefanecha et ketoret hasamim en keloheinu en kadonenu en kemokeinu en kemoshienu. Aleinu. Page 205. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol. La tet gedulam yotzeh bereshit shelo asanu k'roye aratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo samchalkenu kahem v'gohor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'hanachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'mohodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu Shehu Note Shamayim V'Yosed Haaretz U'Moshe V'Karo B'Shamayim Ima'am U'Shchinatu Zo B'Gofei Meromim Hu Eloheinu Ein Od Emet Malkeinu Efes Ulato Kakatu B'Torato V'yadata hayom v'ashivota elevavecha ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim ima'o v'al haaretz mitachat ein od lokein Elim kaveh shalom. Ki lecha tikra kol penish v'kdusha, v'yikablu kulam et machotecha. Ka'katuv b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. The yard sites remembered this week, the second week of the month of Tevet. We remember with love Mitchell Bacow, Nochem Washurowitz, Laser Bulk, Hannah Bulk, Philip Herman, Jean Levine, Alice Smith Levin, Virginia Schmalo, Marion Ellis, Shirley Brodsky, Leonard Cole, Erwin Ernst, Abe Farkas, Abe Cranman, Edward Altman, Fanny Young, Sidney Greenberg, Julius J. Heifetz, Neil Halperin, Barnett I. Ginsberg, William Hyatt, Milton Schaff, Alfred Christofferson, Rizzle S. Kronik, Arthur N. Lappin, Patricia Welch, Leo Zucker, Arthur Levison, Esther C. Lichtenstein, Ann Melamud, Jerome Waldstein, Francis Parker, Shirley Melamut, David Morris, Howard Morris, Maurice M. Smith, Valentina Miasnikova, Benjamin Slotkin, Dorothy Silverman, Tracy Jill Shapiro, Reuben Rivlin, I'm sorry, those are non-observers. Let me go to the rest. Harry Ratner, Rebecca Hamburger, Estelle Schechner, Samuel David Hirsch, Isidore Cohen, Milton Ginsberg, Virginia Schmalo, Julius Lamkin, Leila S. Sisserman, Frederick Goldberg, Pearl Poritz, Israel Cohen, Jerry Ring, Louis Schuchat, Ronald Zatman, Martin W. Zellen. Zichronam Livracha. May their memory be a blessing as mourners and those observing yard sites recite the Kaddish in their memory. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agalah v'zman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach de'lam l'mei maya Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei de Kudusha Brichu, Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tush b'chata v'nechmata, Damiran bi'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, Uya se shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. May our God who dwells bring peace to our memories, to all of the household of Israel, and to all humanity, as we say, Amen. Eric?
Thank you, Rabbi Altshuler. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom Lemishpachtenu, because we are indeed a family. A warm welcome to you all. We had a very large attendance last night, and it is so wonderful to see you all again today. Good afternoon, Rabbi Altshuler. It is a great pleasure to have you with us once again. Rabbi Altshuler is the marathon rabbi, having conducted 2 services yesterday, and he's now on his 2nd service again today. It is a great pleasure to have you with us. By now, through Zoom, Rabbi Altshuler, you have come to see and hear this wonderful congregation. The warmth of Sarasota is exceeded only by the warmth of this congregation. Temple Beth Shalom was founded nearly 95 years ago and has gone from strength to strength. This is the only conservative synagogue in the area. It is the oldest functioning synagogue in the area, and it has the only egalitarian daily minyan. The enthusiasm, warmth, and interest of this synagogue and its community is really outstanding. And it is a pleasure to have you with us. For those of you who are not with us last night, I would briefly like to again give you the highlights, some of the highlights of Rabbi Altshuler's extensive resume. He received a Bachelor of Arts from the University of California. He was elected to Phi Beta Kappa Society. He obtained a Bachelor of Literature from the University of Judaism in Los Angeles, Master of Arts and Doctorate of Hebrew Literature from the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, and was also ordained by the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. He is currently completing 10 years at Belsize Square Synagogue in London. He has served congregations in California, Illinois, Virginia, and Connecticut. He is an accomplished all-rounder. He has taught courses at the university level. He's been a member of the Rabbinic Assembly since 1980 and has organized support for AIPAC in all communities. He is a Renaissance man. He has played the violin since the age of 4.5 years, plays the piano and guitar, plays golf, chess, and is interested in baseball and basketball. His wife, Ella, is an accomplished musician in her own right, a jazz musician, poet, singer, and has multiple interests. I'm sorry that she could not be with us this morning, and please convey our warmest regards to her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Al-Shula, for the superb Devar Torah and your excellent conducting of the service this morning. We thank you for emphasizing the need for us to expand our ideas and our thoughts and horizons. This, I believe, is a very important message for the Jewish community now and in future generations. I'd also like to thank all of those who participated this morning, Don Friedman for Shachrit and Hallel, Cantonil Newman for the Torah service, Rabbi Al-Shula again for the Torah, being our Torah reader and Musaf, Ronnie Reisberg and Dennis Zimmerman for the prayer for Israel, Stan Mitchell for our virtual Siddur, and Elliot Korn for technical supervision. Some announcements. The Bimmer baskets this week are sponsored by Sue and Marty Spector in honor of Sue's birthday, Miriam and Mario Helphone in honor of Mario's birthday. Mazel tov to you both, and we wish you many more in health and happiness. Mazel tov also to Esther Snyder in honor of her great nephew, Ariel Myers, who was one of 2 winners in a national essay contest. His essay was Why I Like Hanukkah, written from the point of view of a Chanukiah sitting in the China cabinet. Sounds very original, and we'd all love to hear this. Our Shabbat takeout meals are back and are as popular as ever. Please note there'll be no Shabbat meals on January 1st and the preceding week, December 25th. The programs this week, firstly, our minions are held daily from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., Sunday through Friday. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Rabbi Siegel conducts his 2 classes, Swimming in the Sea of Talmud, on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m., and on Wednesdays, Gatzi Torah at 11 p.m. On Tuesday evening, December 22nd, via Zoom at 7 p.m., the Men's Club will have Mensch on the Bench, which will feature the creator, Neil Hoffman, whom some of you may have seen on Shark Tank. And then on Wednesday afternoon, 23rd December at 2:30 p.m., there'll be a presentation by Sharon Portnov, who is the daughter of our congregant, Lois Portnov, and this will feature a presentation on Primo Levi, the celebrated Italian chemist, partisan, author, and Auschwitz survivor. This is something you won't want to miss. So these are our extensive programs coming up. I'd like to, on behalf of my wife Esme and I, wish you all a good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, and a wonderful week to come. And all our best again to you, Rabbi Al-Shula. Thank you.
So kind. Thank you so much. So warm. And I really appreciate the welcome and your kind smiles I can see from a distance. Let's conclude our service. I know I'm going to stay afterwards, and I guess there's some questions that you'd like to ask of me. So let's conclude with Adon Olam on page 211 in the Lev Shalem Siddur. Adon olam asher mala b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ei nasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol levadon ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצורך לי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא, בידו הפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן ואירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא. Adonai oz the amo yitain. Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength to all of you, the strength of peace and blessing, and all the goodness that you've shared with me. Even though we're very far apart in miles, we're very close. It's the Jewish world. We share the same prayers, the same hopes, the same dreams. Means a lot. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. So, Michael, I don't know how you want to conduct this.
Well, Rabbi, I had people email me questions that they wanted to ask you.
Okay.
And if anybody emailed me a question this morning, it was too late. I've not checked my email this morning. So I have several questions that members of the congregation would like to hear your answers.
Okay.
The first question is, how would you see using music at services?
Well, music is a very important part of my own personal life, but I think there's a line between, I love going to concerts. I love hearing the symphony here. We have a great selection of all that in London. And I think that music has to be very carefully planned in service. So I have no problems with being very creative at Kabbalat Shabbat services. I think that there's some great things happening there. Services have been enhanced by musical instrumentation. Sometimes the instrumentation can overwhelm the tefillah. And so finding that balance, to me, I don't have a halachic issue with that any longer. The halachic prohibition was based upon the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. We're not supposed to celebrate anymore. We know there was music during the days of the temple, both temples, throughout. We hear that we see that in the Psalm text. And since Jerusalem is back in our hands, I think that we can be a little bit more open to celebrating again. But again, with good taste and with the consensus of the community, because there's some who prefer a more traditional setting, and finding that balance is a challenge. I'm not real big on organs. I'm not, and it's an emotional thing. I don't like being in the church, but I think if there's music that's tastefully done, it can be introduced. Certainly, Kabbalat Shabbat is open to all kinds of creativity, and we should. I don't know what the synagogue has done in that area, but that's something that's certainly worth discussing.
Next question is a two-part question. Do you still actively play the violin?
That's a sore point. I do. I don't play enough. I have found that when I have an incentive, like I've given with my partner here is the Reverend on the block. He plays the harpsichord and piano, and we've given a couple of concerts. Those are great incentives for me to practice. I also have a very close friend, we're like family, Maxime Vengerov. He's a world-renowned violinist, and he actually thinks I'm pretty good. We play when we're together. So when I go to Monaco to visit, or he comes here, I make sure I'm in better shape with the violin. But it's hard finding the time to practice and do it right. But it's nice to have as a wonderful part of my my joy and my hobby, and I love it.
Well, and the second part of that question was, if you do play the violin, how does it enhance your life during the pandemic?
Well, music does. I have music on all the time when I'm studying, when I'm reading in the background. Yeah, I think listen, I feel very lucky that I can take my guitar out. I haven't been able to play the piano so much, but the violin and guitar, they're easy to take out of the case and play. And I find it's very, very calming, very relaxing, and has been part of staying sane, if you will, during this strange time in our lives. So music, thank God I have it, and it's a great release. I don't need much else. I have my books, I have my music, I have my family, I have my friends. What else do you need? So thank you.
The next question again is multi-part.
Okay.
First part is, would you use your guitar on Friday night or Saturday morning services?
Well, I haven't here. I'll tell you why I haven't here, because we have a full-time cantor, and I leave all the music in his hands. I have taken my guitar out because we have a lot of children at Purim and Simchat Torah. That's been my guitar time, but I really haven't done anything with the services here at all. We had a couple musical concerts. I played the violin. Maxime gave a concert here. I played with him, and we had another concert just a little while ago where I played the guitar and sang. But I have not really done that in the services. I've kind of left that to the cantor. I guess I would. Friday night, I have no problems with it. I would feel funny doing that on Shabbat morning. It's just never been part of my belly. I come to shul to daven on those days and been comfortable without the guitar. I can play my guitar any other day of the week, and my violin as well. So I hope that answers the question. I really haven't introduced that in Shabbat morning.
Well, and the second part of the question may be irrelevant then, but he said, do you have a repertoire of contemporary synagogue music similar to Shalom Carlebach, Cantor Taub, Friday Night Live selections?
I'm familiar with all the music, and if I really wanted, if that was my focus, I would be able to engage all that music and learn it rather quickly. But because we have a cantor here, I haven't really, I haven't really spent much time in that area. And I suppose that's something I could do, but it really hasn't been a major part of my rabbinate. But I am familiar with a lot of the music. I was a big devotee of Safam. I think they do some wonderful, wonderful things. And I love Israeli music. I listen to a lot of Israeli contemporary music, and some of the old stuff is great too. That all can be incorporated in service. Some beautiful melodies.
Next question is, would you drive on Shabbat?
Yes, I would. I have in the past. I have the benefit here in London. I live across the street. My commute coming here is about a 25-second walk. So it would be pretty hard. I don't have a car in London either, which has been liberating, coming from Los Angeles when you're in the car all the time. So I've been lucky in that regard. I prefer walking because it just sets a different mood on Shabbat, but I wouldn't in principle be against it. And what I have done here in London, my wife and I, when we've been invited to Shabbat, we have gone in the car. Otherwise, we'd be completely isolated from a lot of people who are important in our lives. So I've made my compromises with that. I would, but only in the context of Shabbat, coming to shul.
The next congregant wants to play Jewish geography with you.
Okay.
He says he's got a daughter who has a friend in Silver Springs named David Altshuler and wants to know if that's a relative.
No, no. My brother's name of Zichrono Livracha was David, but no, we were all in, he was in Atlanta, not Silver Springs. There's a scholar named David Altshuler, and we decided he's the one that brought the precious legacy from Prague to be, but we're kind of distant cousins here. But no, that's not a relative of mine. Maybe he should be, but I don't know him.
The next question has actually been asked twice by members of the congregation. As with any congregation, we have, and especially ours, because we're a little bit older than many congregations, but people have health problems. So visiting people in the hospital or calling people who are ill is important. The same with visiting or calling people having suffered a loss in their family. We would like to know, how do you handle these things?
Well, handle it immediately. It depends. Every situation is different. You know, it's been one of the strangest things with the pandemic is that we're prohibited from visiting anybody in the hospital now. So very strange. And sometimes in the hospital, they take the phones away. And if there's no other family member, it's been very difficult. But clearly, if somebody is ill, surgery or whatever, those are priorities. And not only is it visiting the sick, but sometimes the family needs a lot of support as well. So that's part of being a rabbi, is to be there, touch people's lives. The good times too. You know, a rabbi can also be there when there's a celebration, a baby born, a bat mitzvah, a wedding celebration. So it's all the life cycles. It's every part of life that is a priority. And it's been one of the great joys of my being a rabbi is that even in the difficult times, mourning and visiting the ill, that I know I play a very special role. And I hope that I've helped a lot of people through some difficult times. So I'm there.
The next question that I've received is that you've been a rabbi for 40 years. Have you given thought to retiring, and if so, when?
Well, it's interesting. I've given thought, but it doesn't last very long. I feel the advantage of where I'm at right now. I think you can see me, I'm pretty vibrant. And I'm the 25-year-olds can't keep up with me. I have my witness here, Paul, who knows the kind of schedule I keep. I'm enjoying myself too much, and I love what I do. And listen, I'm not picking up bricks and building buildings. That would be a different issue. I'm a rabbi, and I think that as long as God gives me the mental ability and physical ability, the congregations benefit. I've been 40 years here. There's a lot of knowledge stuck up here in the head, and I'm still as enthused about being Jewish and sharing Jewish life as I ever have been. As a matter of fact, it's much easier at my particular experience because it is so natural, so much a part of me that I really don't consider it. I feel I have a lot of years. I've always used the line here, you know, age is changing a lot. Today's 60 is yesterday's 50. And we have a president of the United States elect who's going to be 78 years old, and he's looking at 8 years. So if he can do it, I see no reason why a rabbi can't do it on my schedule and the demands. So I feel as young as ever. I tell my kids I feel like I'm 20 years old still. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but that's just where I'm at right now.
As we've discussed with you, we have a small office staff. We don't have an executive director. So the question is, I would guess right now you are not involved with that because you have an executive director at your synagogue there. But have you in the past or even now been involved with supervising office staff and things of that nature.
Oh, yeah, and and I kind of have a joint venture with my executive director. I have a great relationship with him and with all the staff here. We work together as a team. And I don't get involved. Yesterday, we had a bit of a panic. Paul's here, my dear friend who's been helping, and our sound system went out. I wouldn't know what the heck to do to fix anything like that. But I stay out of those issues, the engineering part of things. Certainly when it comes to the operation of the synagogue and policy here, everybody knows I'm here. And I try to uplift people. I'm very much aware of the fragility of life. And so I believe in putting things in perspective, not getting all upset about little things, and making sure that every one of us is treated with dignity and kept on that level. So that's the way I operate. That's the way I always will be. And I see a note here from Mark. Yes. Thank you, Mark and Roz. Dear friends, we haven't seen each other in 35 years.
The next question is, what is your involvement with adult education?
Oh, a lot. Teaching is in my blood. I never say no to classes. We do a lot of things here. Every Sunday morning, we have quite an intensive 3.5 hours together with a group that keeps growing. I've taught all kinds of things from text to Talmud to philosophy to history, all kinds of issues.
He was very good with those pastoral duties.
And then we've had other classes along the way. We have a very fine Tikkun Leil Shavuot. I bring in quite a lineup of scholars and real high level. We have a joint class with my neighbor, the church here, and a mosque in the area. It's very unique to London. We've done that in our courses. Every Monday night, I have my Introduction to Judaism class. We have the largest conversion class in the area now, very enthusiastic group. That's a very important part of my ongoing education here as well. And other things come up. I'm probably missing a lot of that. And also I consider the Shabbat morning especially to be a very important part of teaching as well as sermonizing. So there are a lot of opportunities for learning here, and I take pride in that. I've also been a professor in the university level for many years. And so it's a high level. I try to keep it that way, and it's been very, very successful. I've also taken, we couldn't this year, I had a trip planned with my colleague, Rabbi Chaim Wiener, to go to Jewish Portugal. And of course, because of the pandemic, we couldn't fly, everything was canceled. But in the years I've been here, every year I've taken a group of about 30 people. We went to Berlin, we went to Vilna, we went to Warsaw, we took a trip to Israel. Try to remember our other trips there. So those are all educational experience. They've been extremely successful, and I've enjoyed all of that.
Well, somebody just put in chat wanting to know about your involvement with other religious leaders and other synagogues. And I think you answered that question before you knew it was there. So
yeah, I guess I've touched on that. I take pride in the fact that I've been able to as far as rabbis, I actually am a member of the liberal rabbinic group, which is about as left as you can get, because I was close friends with the director of that movement here, Danny Rich, who's since retired. But I also was very close to Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory. We studied together, we were very close. And that was very unusual for a non-Orthodox rabbi to have that kind of relationship. I think those things are good. And I think that we have to work very hard on building all those bridges, because I'm a big believer in all the different parts of the Jewish people. As far as interfaith, I mentioned, one of my closest friends is my neighbor next door, Reverend Paul Nicholson. We do a lot of things together. We have an exchange of pulpit. We started, which is not the usual here. We started the first clergy association. And I said, why don't we do that? We started with 6 people. We have over 25 clergy now in the area. So interfaith work has been a very big part of what I do, and it's very important to develop neighborly relations with the entire community. And what better group to do that with than the churches and the mosques in the area?
I've had a couple of the chats this morning are asking, why are you leaving London?
Well, I think I've explained this to the committee. We worked out an agreement here. I finished 10 years. I was supposed to be here 2 or 3 years. I have my son and my daughter in Virginia. My mother's still alive at 100 in California. I have lots of cousins and family in Los Angeles area, in the Chicago area. And I have 3 grandchildren, beautiful kids. I want to see them. It's been very hard being here. And especially this time, usually in summer, I've been spending much of my summer, especially with my mother in Los Angeles, and we haven't been able to visit. It's been terrible. So we're looking forward to coming back. I didn't want to spend my last years here in London. It makes the move much more difficult the longer you wait. My home is in the United States, and it's time. We've had a great tenure here, but it's time to get back home. That's how we feel, and that's why I'm ready to move into my next wonderful journey.
And we could probably have questions go on forever, but this is going to be the last one.
Okay.
Why do you have an interest in Sarasota?
Because of you, because of all you wonderful people. I'll tell you where my relationship with Sarasota began. This might sound a little funny, but when we were in freezing cold Chicago, we looked for a place, my wife and I, where we could go and warm up a little bit, see some flamingos, and we picked Sarasota, and we loved it. We fell in love with the area, and we came there a few times. And it was really, we would leave the airport at O'Hare in Chicago. It was 10 degrees below zero. And that's what Sarasota did to us. Then the other connection is when I was in Chicago and even before then in Connecticut, Mark Bokoff knows the family, the Cantor family. I'm still very close with the Cantor's son, Bob Cantor. We're in touch all the time. His parents had a home in Sarasota, and I used to come to visit quite often. So been in Sarasota many times. I'm a big Chicago White Sox fan, and back then, the White Sox had their spring training, and Aaron Cantor, who was our friend, he was a big White Sox fan too, so we had a blast. So Sarasota was a lot of fun, a great place to go to. It's beautiful there, and you've just enhanced my feelings about all that. So that's the connection with Sarasota.
Thank you very much. I'm going to bring this to a conclusion. We greatly appreciate it. You know, here it's middle of the day. Your Shabbos is probably over there as dark as it.
We were done. Let's see, it's 5 o'clock. Shabbat ended around 4:35. We're doing I'm going from here to do Havdalah.
Well, Rabbi, thank you very much for last night and today. We appreciate it. You and I will be in touch in the not too distant future. But again, thank you very much. We've enjoyed your doing services, and
Sharing your
look
life.
forward to seeing you again sometime soon.
I hope so. Thank you for your kindness and warmth. Even though we're far away, I felt your presence here, the marvels of our Zoom technology. So anyway, thank you. And love to Mark and Roz. I just got a note from them. We'll be in touch, Mark.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You guys. Thank you all.
Shabbat
Shabbat
Thank
shalom.
you.
Thank you,
Shabbat
Rabbi.
shalom.
We have Shavuot Tov, but you continue to enjoy.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shavua Tov.
Shalom.
Good Shabbos, Heidi.
Hi, lady.
Shabbat shalom. Good to see you all.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone, from
So many smiling faces.
Be well. Have a good weekend.
Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, good to
See everyone.
go.
Hi, Heidi. Good to see you.
Shabbat shalom, Zadie.
Shabbat shalom, honey. We'll talk to you
Okay.
soon.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Wonderful, very, very
like
fine, Rabbi.
Very impressive. Very,
Very impressive. That's it,
very
too.
impressive.
Very impressive. Excellent.
Yes, excellent.
Happy birthday, Mario.
Thank you very much. And kidnap the rabbi before somebody will take him.
Amen. Amen.
Hey.
Amen to that. All right.
Yeah, but
Shabbat shalom, Sarah Lee.
but,
Shabbat shalom, everybody. So good to see all of you. Thank you. He's here. Be well, everyone. Stay well.
you.
Stay well.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh.
Eric, I saw a peak of 129.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're muted. You're muted, Eric.
That's what I saw, Elliot.
Eric, you're muted.
29.
The rabbi plays violin with Maxine Vengerov. He's at a very professional level because Maxine Vengerov is one of the top violinists today in the world.
Right, right.
When he gets here, I might be able to get him into a little private chamber group that I know.
I think 129 is absolutely fantastic. That is really wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah, I didn't count, but we probably had close to 200 faces.
Oh, well, I'm sure we could be friends with Yitzchak.
Oh, yes. There was something very, very natural about him that I liked.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
He was very relaxed.
Yeah.
He wasn't on edge.
No.
No,
No. Well, that comes with experience, I think, as he said.
it can, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there another candidate to be considered?
I think they already had, well, I'm not on the committee.
Last night, they said that they had 10 applicants. They interviewed 4, and he was the only one that they called back for a second interview.
This Stewart. So he's number 1 in the running, I presume.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, looks like it might be a good choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know where his kids are in Virginia?
Somewhere in Virginia.
Elliot?
Yes,
It
sir.
looks like I am recording again today.
Me
I'm
too.
not sure how that happened.
Well, I think Kelly's got it set up for automatic somehow, but I'm also recording today, so you
Okay.
may not have to do anything, but let me make sure I get it before I tell you to get rid of it.
Yeah, and I'll let it do its conversion thing if it does it.
Right.
Elliot, I did notice the recording little thing on my screen in the black part till very recently. So I don't know. One of them may not have been recording the whole time.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
If you don't touch your screen, everything goes away, but it's still running.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
checked.
it's running well. Yeah, but I noticed that start up again or whatever, or maybe you're concentrating on everything else and you don't see it.
Yeah. Well, like
Shabbat shalom to you all. Once again, thank you, Stan. Thank you, Elliot.
Shalom. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you for all
Shabbat
the.
shalom, everybody. Have a good week.
gave
too.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you,
I know.
everybody. Shabbat
Shabbat shalom.